All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unpack a pretty controversial idea called irreducible complexity. It comes from biochemist Michael Behe, and it really throws a wrench in some of the classic ideas about how evolution is supposed to work.
So, when you hear the name Michael Behe, you almost immediately hear stuff like this: anti-science. He gets labeled a creationist in a lab coat, all sorts of things. But is that really what's going on here? Is it that simple?
And this is where things get interesting. The common picture painted of him is of a religious fundamentalist. But the reality? This guy is a tenured professor of biochemistry at Lehigh University, a serious scientist who has spent his entire career looking at the nitty-gritty details of life at the molecular level.
Now, let's get something straight right off the bat. Behe isn't arguing about the age of the Earth or the idea that species are related. He accepts all that. His fight, his big question, is with the mechanism. He's asking, are random, unguided mutations really powerful enough to build the kind of insane nanotechnology we're finding inside our own cells? And that question brings us right to the heart of his big idea, something he calls irreducible complexity. And to help us get our heads around it, he uses a super simple, everyday example, a basic mousetrap.
Okay, so just picture a standard old-school mousetrap. For it to actually work, you need a few key parts, right? You need the wooden platform, you need the spring for the power, you've got the hammer, the sensitive little catch, and the holding bar to keep it all set. You need all 5 of those pieces working together for it to do its job.
So, here's the critical question from an evolutionary perspective. What happens if you're trying to build this thing one tiny step at a time? What if you're missing just one of those parts? Say, the spring.
Well, it's not like it just gets a little worse at its job. It doesn't catch half as many mice. Its function isn't just reduced by a bit.
No, it just fails completely. It has zero function. It's totally useless. And that's the problem he points to for gradual evolution. Evolution is supposed to rely on small changes that each offer some sort of advantage, but an incomplete mousetrap, it offers no advantage at all. So why would it ever be selected for? Now, to be fair, critics do have a counterargument called exaptation, the idea that the parts might have had other jobs before coming together. Okay, so that's the simple analogy. But Behe argues this isn't just some clever thought experiment. He says this exact problem exists for real, down in the microscopic world. And his poster child for this is a little thing called the Bacterial Flagellum. And get this, when scientists describe this thing, it sounds less like biology and more like a high-tech engine schematic. We're talking about a literal molecular motor. It has a rotor, a stator, a drive shaft, a universal joint, and a propeller. It's even water-cooled and runs on proton power. It's absolutely wild. And the performance specs? They are just mind-blowing. This microscopic motor can spin at up to 100,000 RPM. To put that into perspective, a Formula One race car engine, one of the most advanced engines on the planet, redlines at about 15,000 RPM. This is on a whole other level. And it's not just about speed, it's the incredible control. It can slam on the brakes and reverse direction in just a quarter of a single turn. The level of precision engineering in something so tiny is just hard to even imagine. So Behe's argument basically boils down to this. If our Mars rover found a little machine with these exact specs sitting on the red planet, would any scientist on Earth say, no, that must have been formed by wind and erosion? No way. The immediate, logical conclusion would be someone, some intelligence, designed and built this.
Okay, let's switch analogies for a second. If things like the flagellum are the hardware, then what's the software that tells it how to get built? Well, that would be DNA.
You see, we now know that DNA isn't just some random chemical. It is, for all intents and purposes, an information storage system. It's a digital code that uses just 4 characters, A, C, T, and G, to write the entire instruction manual for every single protein and every machine inside the cell. And this right here is the fundamental disagreement. The standard view of evolution sees random mutations, basically copying errors in that code, as the author of all of life's complexity. But Behe sees it differently. To him, a mutation is more like a glitch or bug in the code. It might break things, sometimes even in a beneficial way, but it can't write a whole new, sophisticated program.
I mean, think about it in terms we all understand. Random errors in computer code don't accidentally create a new operating system. A glitch isn't going to magically turn Windows 95 into Windows 11. For that, you need a programmer.
Ultimately, when you step back, What Behe is really trying to do is carve out what you might call a third way. He's proposing a path that moves beyond the typical battle lines drawn between religious fundamentalism on one side and strict materialism on the other.
The implication of this whole argument is, well, it's profound. It suggests that maybe what we see in biology isn't just the result of a blind, chaotic accident. Instead, it starts to point toward a universe that looks a whole lot more like a deliberate, engineered project.
And this brings us to a really fascinating out there question. If our biology is really this complex, this much like high technology, is it almost like our bodies are the hardware, specifically designed to run inside some kind of cosmic simulation?
Look, whether you agree with him or not, what Michael Behe is arguing is that the machinery inside the cell isn't just random noise. It is, he claims, something else entirely, the unmistakable signature of a mind.